Butterwood Raceway Instructions. Slide 1. Shown here is Butterwood Raceway as it is for January 2019. This presentation will familiarize you with the basics of the track. It and the associated videos on YouTube will provide enough information for you to have a very successful racing experience. Slide 2. The first thing you must know about Butterwood Raceway are the lanes. Shown here are the two lanes, the inside lane shown in blue and the outside lane shown in red. No distractions are shown. When you are racing you will have your choice of which lane you wish to race on, and can change frequently, shown here in yellow. Slide 3. The size of the track. Butterwood Raceway's lanes are 15.49 and 14.86 meters long. While the inside lane has a distance advantage, the outside has a speed advantage due to wall containment. Mixing the two advantages with strategically timed lane changes will win races. Slide 4, Turns and Straights. As with all motorsports parks, the track is broken up into segments of turns and straights, with each presenting their challenges. Here the turns are labeled with their numbers. Note that the numbers appear at each turn's apex. Slide 5, The Turns. The turns on Butterwood Raceway are what makes it a very unique track when coupled with the normal attributes of slot car racing. The normal rules of apex and apogee do not apply. With the exception of turns 1 and 3, which are reciprocal turns, meaning one turns right, 1, and the other turns left, 3, they are very simple, straight turn straight. All the other turns at Butterwood Raceway are unique. Turn 2 is a turn, 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 as is 5, however 5 is preceded by a turn, 4, whereas turn 2 is preceded by a straight. Turn 4 can be compared to turn 3 as it is also similar and reciprocal, but turn 4 is followed immediately by turn 5, whereas turn 3 is preceded and followed by straights. Turn 6 differs from turns 2 and 5 as it is a squeeze track, with the actual turn being a compromise of lane position compared to turns 2 and 5. The inside/lead car has an advantage. Turns 7 and 8 form a loose S's, with a 2-to-1 ratio, which creates perhaps the most difficult section of the track to be explained later. Turn 7 is also similar to 9 in most respects, however turn 8 is the differentiator. Slide 6, The Straights. In between the turns are the straights. Here at Butterwood Raceway, the straights, amongst other things, are named. These are the names of the 4 big straights. There are also 3 short duration straights, but they are of minimal length, the largest being only 2 sections of track long. 2 other straights are not actually straights, as they are single lane sections, and they are named, shown here in the yellow blocked areas. Slide 7, Running the main straights. The 3 main straights of Butterwood Raceway all have digitally controlled lane change sections. The back straight lane change is at the beginning of the straight. On the north straight, the lane change is in the middle, and on the front straight the lane change comes just before the end, and the pit row entry. To make a lane changes are activated with the controller trigger button. It must be depressed and held upon entry of the lane change section. The trigger must be pushed in when crossing the section of track marked here in the red highlight. Slide 8, Off the racetrack sections. On the South Strait the outside lane has the duckout. On the front straight there is the pit row entry from the inside lane. If you have been called for a penalty by the other drivers, you must serve the penalty time in either pit row or on the duckout, without imposing on other drivers. And of course you may enter pit row for other reasons as well. To enter either one of these 2 lanes, you must depress the trigger button on the controller before you enter the entry section of track. Again, these points are marked in red. Slide 9. The most intense section of Butterwood Raceway is the front straight. With regards to driving, the front straight is not difficult, it's a straight. However, activity along this particular straight can have very dynamic consequences depending on the circumstances. There are 2 separate areas where the trigger can be pushed for track positioning. And a third and fourth area, yellow and green, that have other utilizations for the throttle and trigger controller buttons. This is all best explained in the associated YouTube video Front Straight. Slide 10. If you decide to withdraw from the race, or you are taking an extended break, you must remove your car from the active track. There are 4 places that you can place your car during a withdrawal or during an extended break. 3 of the 4 places are shown here highlighted in yellow. You may park the car in the garage area adjacent to pit row, or you may place your car on any one of the 3 rest zones, 2 shown here, along the outside of the outside front straight. To re-enter the race at any point in time you will move your car to pit row, unless the race you left or withdrew from has ended. If the latter is the case, you will have to contend for restart placement. Slide 11, turns 1, 2, and 3. While incidental events might happen, turns 1, 2 and 3 are relatively uneventful. Some cars have a difficult time with turn 3, following a high-speed exit from turn 2 on the outside lane. Note that there are no distance markers on the 2 small straights in this section of the raceway. Guidance for speed control should be in accordance with guardrails, fencing, and raceway features. Slide 12, North Strait. The North Strait, named for its direction of travel, is also a relatively uneventful section of the track. Normal straight racing is applied to the North Strait, with consideration to the reciprocal turns 3 and 4 in mind. Most lane departures in this section of the raceway take place in these locations, with incidents at the lane change coming in a distant second in terms of concern. Remember to invoke a lane change, in the middle section of this straight, by ensuring that the controller trigger button is depressed, upon entering that section of the track, shown here in red. Note if the driver is located along the front straight, normal controller location, the visibility of this straight is blocked by the garage and tower structure. A lane departure may not be noticed. Slide 13, Turn 5. Turn 5 is the most aggressive turn on the track. Coming out of Turn 4, Turn 5 has a best lane. Remembering that this turn is an internal is the issue. As far as this turn is concerned, the outside lane of this turn is actually the inside lane by the track naming convention. While full lane departures from either of the lanes is extremely rare, loss of traction is a huge issue. Many of the cars lose traction on the inside lane, which is the outside lane. The outside lane, actual inside lane, has the guardrail and fencing containment advantage. Overall track length and the upcoming turn 6 squeeze is the issue, as there is no lane change option between turn 5 and turn 6. Slide 14, South Strait. The South Strait is perhaps the easiest straight to negotiate. The South Strait only has the duckout and the upcoming turn 6 to consider. If you have a car directly in front of you that is impeding your progress, perhaps the blue flag official will attract his attention to your plight and he will take the duckout. Or you may take it yourself if you think you have sufficient acceleration coming out of turn 5. Nevertheless, you do have the squeeze of turn 6 coming up. And note that the only reason for the duckout is the equality of the track layout overall. While pit row is a duckout as well, it is on the inside lane, and this duckout balances that by being on the outside lane. It provides a spot while on the speed advantage of the outside lane to do a quick driver change. To take the duckout, remember to have the trigger selected when you come out of turn 5, shown here with the red highlight. Slide 15, the squeeze. Turn 6 is the infamous squeeze turn. There are only 2 issues with turn 6. Yes, traction is a huge issue with both lanes as there is no guardrail and fencing advantage to the maintenance of lane control. However, the biggest issue of turn 6 is the squeeze issue. If 2 cars are side by side entering turn 6, one or both of you are going to have a lane departure incident. Somebody has to give. Coming out of turn 6, you also have to consider the back straight strategy. Slide 16, the back straight. The back straight is the second longest straight on the raceway. The first thing you have to consider entering the back straight is the lane change. Not only should you be considering your lane position for the straight, but you should also be thinking about the S's. Don't forget to push the trigger at the start of the straight to invoke the lane change, again shown in red highlight. Slide 17, the infamous S's, although not like those at Laguna Seca. The S's made up by turns 7 and 8. Entering the S's, both the inside lane and the outside lanes will have issues. The inside lane will have issues with turn 7, the outside lane will have issues with turn 8. Also, turn 8 has to think about the next section of track. Please watch the video about the S's. And note that the lane change on the back straight seen in the video is no longer there. That decision has to be made at the beginning of the back straight. It was moved for track equity, which is the balance of issues for both lanes. Slide 18, Turn 9. The last turn. Turn 9 completes the raceway. The final decision to be made on the raceway takes place upon entering turn 9. The driver taking turn 8, comes out of turn 8 thinking about entering pit row. Pit row is only entered from the inside lane, so the driver on the outside lane must have the trigger depressed on his controller coming out of turn 8. The driver on the inside lane has to deal with lane departure coming around turn 9, or at the least loss of traction. This completes the basic instructions for Butterwood Raceway. Please think about what has been presented here during your initial practice and qualifying laps. All the basics of what can happen on this track have been covered, and remember each lap takes about 8 seconds. The only thing left is where you are going to stand to have a good race. Think about visibility and reach, as you are going to wreck, it's the recovery from that wreck that will help you win races. Race safe.